Hello, I'm going to speed run chapters 9 and 10. Chapter 9 was all about decision-making, creativity, and innovation. It talked about how decision-making is not problem-solving, but rather a component of problem-solving. Decision-making is identifying a problem, or identifying a strategy to solve a problem, whereas problem-solving is the whole aspect of everything together. It talked about the two different kinds of decision-making: programmed, which is routine, and then non-programmed, dealing with non-routine problems. It talked about the 5 steps in the decision-making process, including defining the problem, identifying factors that lead to it, different alternatives, rating the alternatives, and then implementing and working out the alternatives. It talked about bounded rationality versus complete rationality in real-world decision-making situations. It talked about satisfying decisions, which is basically you can use them for less important decisions. It used a gum buying example and how that's not one of the most important decisions. And then it talked about intuition, which is using feelings, and heuristics, which is basically a rule of thumb or shortcuts. It talked about availability heuristics, anchoring and adjusting heuristics, and representative heuristics. It talked about biases and errors, a few of those being common information bias, confirmation bias, and then ease of recall bias or error. There were so many biases and errors. They talked about how creativity is a process, and it talked about the 3-component model of creativity, how that has domain relevant skills, creativity related processes, including productive forgetting, and then task motivation. It talked about the 3 ways to support creativity, including organizational, supervisory, and work group supports. It talked about the innovative process and how that involves idea generation, and then problem solving, and then implementation and diffusion, how that kind of went down the ladder. And then chapter 10 was ethics and social responsibility in organizations. Reasons to study ethics included virtue, which was doing the right thing, and then prudence, which is doing the smart thing. It talked about ethical debate going on with AI right now and the ethical dilemmas. It talked about the approaches to ethics, including utilitarian rights and justice. It talked about moral blindness, which is someone higher up doing something wrong even though they know it's wrong because it's benefiting the company, so they just kind of turn a blind eye to it. It talked about Payne's moral compass and the 4 lenses involving that, which was, is it worthwhile? Does it comply with company regulations and ethics? How does it impact others, and has it been approved by a regulatory authority? It talked about the 4 square protocols and the 4 elements involved in that. It talked about Kohlberg's theory of moral development, the pre-conventional, conventional, and then post-conventional moral development within that, and some reasons people don't really like that one. It talked about the 6 pillars of characteristics, including trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. And then it talked about ethical leadership and followership. There was so much going on with ethical leaders and responsibilities, and then followers and responsibilities. There was so much going on with that. And then it talked about corporate social responsibility, also known as CSR. It mentioned a 2021 global sustainability study that said 60% of people now say that sustainability is a main criterion when buying from a company. It talked about how companies are now also judged on return on ethics, also known as ROE. It talked about Carroll's pyramid of CSR, including philanthropy, ethical, legal, and environmental factors. It talked about organizational components of ethical culture. And it talked about the 5 ways to build an ethical company, where experimental ethical training, reflection, post-mortem and pre-mortem group discussions, volunteering services, and mentors.